Shalom, how's everyone doing? Today's day 39 of the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, and we'll be learning Siman Seif test. Let's begin. Bayis shemispalin bo b'tzibur, right? A house that the tzibur is davening in. V'nimsa sham tzoa, and there's tzoa in the house. Afa pi shihi achorei hashliach tzibur, even though the tzoa is behind the shliach tzibur. Urchoka mimenu yosef mer abba amos mimelkom shkol hareach, and it's more than 4 amos away from where the smell ends. Mikamakom, nevertheless, tzarchu lishtok ulahamtim ad sheyotziuha o yechasua. He still has to wait until they either take the tzoa out or cover it. Mipnei she'i efshar shelo tehei le'echad min hatzibur toch arba amos mimakom shekal aruch, because it's impossible for somebody in the tzibur not to be within 4 amos of where the smell ends. V'asur lo lishmo lechavin l'mash omer hashliach tzibur. Right, and since he's so close to the tzoa, it would be usher for him to listen and to be mechavin, to follow along what the shliach tzibur is saying. Fine. So what's the Kitzur talking about over here? Obviously, like we've been discussing, one is not allowed to say Devarim Shebegdusha in the presence of tzoa. And as we explained yesterday, what does it mean in the presence of tzoa? So it means one of two things. It means that you cannot be within arba amos of where the smell ends. Right? Even if it's behind you. One is not allowed to be arba amos of where the smell ends. And that's what he's talking about over here, right? So what's the case here? So the shliach tzibur, he's up there, he's davening. And the tzoa is behind him, right? It's more than 4 amos from where the smell ends behind him, so he's good to go, he's good to daven. But it's in close proximity to other people from the tzibur, right? It's within 4 amos of other people of the tzibur. Therefore, it would be impossible for them to follow along to what the shliach tzibur is saying, because they themselves are not able to say Devarim Shebegdusha. Therefore, they cannot listen to Devarim Shebegdusha. Where is this coming from? This is really coming from the Ramah. This is word for word the Ramah and Siman test. And as the Maggid of Ram points out, that this wouldn't apply to Pesukei Zimra, right? Because Pesukei Zimra is something that we all say on our own, right? So let's say the shliach tzibur gets there, he's getting up there for Pesukei Zimra, and there's tzoa behind him. So who cares that it's in close proximity to other people in the tzibur? Everyone just is doing their own thing. The shliach tzibur could do his own thing. Nobody's really listening to him. As opposed to like Chazer Sashatz, when really everyone's supposed to listen along to Chazer Sashatz, and they cannot listen and they cannot follow because they themselves are in close proximity to tzoa. But there's a couple questions with this halacha. There's one that the Taz asks. The Taz asks a simple question. If you look in the Kitzur, and it's really coming from the din of the Ramah, he says, the shliach tzibur cannot continue davening because the tzoa is probably in close proximity to somebody else in the tzibur. The Taz says, no, there's an even simpler concern. Right, we said there's 2 things that are problematic when you're davening by tzoa. One, it can't be within your 4 amos. Second, it can't be kimlo enough, right? If you're able to see the tzoa, that's also going to be a problem. So why didn't he just say the halacha? You know why the shliach tzibur has to stop his tefillah? Because somebody in the tzibur is probably looking at the tzoa, right? It's probably in kimlo enough of somebody in the tzibur. Why did he have to say this other chashash of it's probably within dalan amos of somebody else in the tzibur? So the Maggid of Ram answers this, and the Maggid of Ram says, no, because it's very easy to not be mlo enough, just turn to the side, right? So everyone in the tzibur, they could just turn to the side, so they're not facing the tzoa, so that would be okay. Another question, though, that the Maggid of Ram asks, he says, look at Siman Nun Hey. What does it say in Siman Nun Hey? It says the following din. It says as follows. Right, so obviously there's a halacha. In order to have a tzibur, one needs 10 people. Right, 10 people in the room, that makes it tzibur. The question is, let's say there's 10 people in the room, and there's like a few people outside the room. Could they be part of the tzibur to answer Devarim Shebegdusha? Could they say Amin Hishmei Rabba? Could they answer to Kedusha? So Shulchan Aruch talks about this. This is in Siman Nun Hey, Seif Chaf. It says as follows. Hayu asar b'makom echad v'ormim Kaddish Kedusha. Let's say there's 10 people there together. So obviously they're saying Kaddish Kedusha. Afilu mi she'eino imam yachol lanos. Even somebody who's in the room next door, he hears, he could answer with them, and that's okay. V'yish omrim, Shulchan Aruch says, some people say, shetzarach shelo yehei mafsik tinof o akum. However, some people say, if you're in the next room, but there's something blocking you from the tzibur. For example, there's a makom tinuf, there's something disgusting. For example, a piece of tzoa maybe. O akum, or there's a guy even, right? Shulchan Aruch says, or even there's a guy, that would actually serve as a separation between the tzibor and the individual. And he would not be able to answer to Kaddish Kedusha. So first about this guy point, that's an interesting halacha Shulchan Aruch saying. Shulchan Aruch saying if there's 10 people in a tzibor, somebody's in another room and there's a guy in between them, you cannot answer to Ram Shebekdusha. If you look at the Magen Avraham and Siman he says no. It doesn't really mean a guy. It means a piece of avodah zarah. It means like an idol. It doesn't actually mean a guy. A guy doesn't break the tzibor. But if you look in the El Yerabah learns Shulchan Aruch Kipshuta. The El Yerabah learns Shulchan Aruch no. A guy does break the tzibor. The Mishmur takes like a middle shita. The Mishmur says it means either a idol, like the Magen Avraham says, or a guy who's oved avodah zarah. Right, not just a regular guy. A guy who's oved avodah zarah would break the tzibor. But that's about that. But the first thing Shulchan Aruch says, is if there's a makom tinuf breaks the tzibor. So the Magen Avraham asks, why do we have a halacha here? That what's this whole thing? The Kitzur and the Ramah are saying that. Oh, you know what the chashash is? The chashash is that maybe somebody in the tzibor is within 4 amos. Here's an even bigger chashash. According to Shulchan Aruch, if there's a piece of tzorah there, it breaks the tzibor. Right, just like Shulchan Aruch says, if there's 10 people and then the tzorah is behind them, then people in the next room can't join. The same thing would apply. Is that let's say there's 6 people in the front of the room, there's a piece of tzorah there, 4 people in the back, that would break the tzibor. Right, so that's the chashash. The chashash is not that somebody's within 4 amos of the tzorah, it's that the tzorah breaks the tzibor. So the Magen Avraham says, he says you have to look carefully at Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch says yesh omrim. Some people say this. So it's not such an accepted din, right? If you look in the Beis Yosef, if he says it's coming from a Yerushalmi, we don't have that Yerushalmi. But maybe the Ramah doesn't accept that din, right? The Kitzur is coming from the Ramah. Maybe the Ramah does not accept this din of the Shulchan Aruch, that a makom tinuf, that a piece of tzorah breaks the tzibor. So rather, there's only this other concern that we're afraid that it's within 4 amos of somebody in the tzibor. So that's one suggestion. Or another suggestion we could say is based on the Chida. The Chida learns no. Let's think about it. If there are 10 people in a room, that's a tzibor. It doesn't matter if there's a piece of tzorah there. Shulchan Aruch's not going to say that breaks the tzibor. 10 people are at tzibor. Tzorah is not going to break that. What's Shulchan Aruch talking about? Shulchan Aruch's talking about a very specific din. What's the din? There are 10 people in a tzibor. They're in the room. Okay, they're davening. And there's a piece of tzorah behind them. So people who are in a different room, they want to be part of that tzibor. No. They're in a different room. Even though they're in a different room, they could join the tzibor, but since there's that piece of tzorah there, it's blocking. However, if everyone's in the same room, even if there's tzorah in the middle there, that would not break the tzibor because they're in the same room. So maybe that's what the Ramah is talking about. The Ramah, he says maybe this din of Shulchan Aruch is only talking about if they're in different rooms, right? If they're in different rooms, then the tzorah would break. However, if they're in the same room, the tzorah does not break the tzibor, and therefore there's only this other chashash that it would be within 4 amos of somebody in the room. Okay, shkoyach.